8:01. Call please set outside. Roll call.
Franz,
Here.
Davis,
Here.
Metz,
Here.
Millet, Mugarar, Herman,
Here.
Hudak.
We got a quorum.
Thank you.
Yes.
I was like counting.
Yeah.
All right. We have 2 sets of minutes to approve. February 12th. Any comments, questions, concerns, additions, subtractions?
Nope.
All right. I make a motion to approve.
So,
All right. April 8th minutes.
Nope, take a vote on the 12.
Oh, take a vote?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Do each one separate.
All right.
So you made
Take
the
vote.
motion?
I made the
You got
motion.
the
Second. Okay. Vote.
Franz,
Aye.
Davis,
Aye.
Metz,
aye.
Herman,
Aye.
carried 5-0.
All right. April 8th minutes.
Make a motion to approve.
I second.
Franz,
Aye.
Davis,
Aye.
Metz,
Aye.
Herman,
Aye.
motion carried.
Perfect. All right. No citizen statements? Nope. Okay. No old business. All right. On to new business. Discussing the corp plan. Update includes and these assessments.
Okay, back this evening is John and Rebecca with Rettler Corporation. I'll be turning the floor over to them shortly. They'll be going through the results of the POCO survey, the community survey that we did back roughly for the entire month of March. They'll provide the results of that and go through some of the analytics and their information. And then they'll talk briefly about, we also had our all-staff meeting, including our field staff during the assessment time, so they can go over some of that information as well from what was discussed with our field staff. I think that'll get us rolling, right, John? For now? Come on up, John, and I'll turn it over to you, and Park Board members should have received a copy of that results in your packet.
Hey Chad, can you get F5 just to start the, or whoever has that? Thank you.
Do you,
Because I can't see otherwise which button. Yeah.
John, do you prefer, can you take questions as we're going through, or
Yeah,
what's
I
your
think what
preference?
we'll do is just go through questions and results, and then if anything piques your interest or you want to ask a question, please just hop in and ask. We'll go through this needs assessment. So for today, we conducted the citizen survey that was conducted by the city of Oshkosh using POCO that ran from March 4th through the 31st of this year. There was approximately 20 questions. Some of them had several choices, so approximately 20 questions. 483 people took the survey. That's very good from the results we see for corp surveys. We feel that we got a very good cross-section here of information to help guide. Again, this is just one tool we use to guide the improvements that we do put in for the parks. Again, staff review, capital improvements planning, and general parks need really drive that along with the citizen survey. So this information is very important to get a pulse on your community. So to figure out who is responding to this, the first few questions asks, do you reside in the city of Oshkosh? And the majority of it, 90%, was yes. So most people taking this survey do reside in the city and then surrounding communities. And then we like to figure out who, from an age demographic, are they parent age with children? Are they senior citizen age? Are they young, new community members? So we like to ask, your age. As you can see here, we really have a strong contingent of 31 to 45-year-olds, 40 to 60, and then 61 to 75, 75 plus, a little bit of information, and then some great feedback from the 18 to 30 contingent as well. And then I thought it was interesting with this demographic, the amount of folks with children under age 18 was just at about 40%, so 60-40 on that split. So a lot of the folks taking this do come from the perspective of parents with children, and a lot of people are older adults with a lot of park use, so it is a neat cross-section to see. After we kind of figure out who is taking the survey, we like to ask people how they find out about parks, events, programs. We got 25 other comments as well, but most popular is social media. Secondly is word of mouth, which is interesting. The newspaper, rec department program guide, which is nice to see here. That's nice to see people are using that in the marquee signage in the parks themselves. So a lot of the information is coming from that. And then other sources of information on the parks, clubs, so the user group clubs and whatnot, friends, workplace, neighborhood meetings is a big source of what's going on in the parks. Local news, Parks Department itself, people do call. Historically, we are getting a lot of phone calls in just to see what's going on, what programs are open. The OCVB as well. And then there's about 12% of people that just don't know where to find park info. So that was interesting as well. Then we like to see how often people are using your park facilities, and what parks have you visited recently. So park usage, this is very, very good information. We've got some hardcore 10% of folks that use their parks every day. It's actually pretty high. 38% using them weekly, also very high. 28% using it 1 to 2 times per month, which is great. And then the occasional users, it starts to tail off here at 6%, and then 3% of folks that took the survey don't actually use the parks, so they say. The parks that do get the most use, according to the survey responses, Menominee Park, there's my pointer, Menominee Park, South Park, and then other Oshkosh parks above Rainbow and Red Arrow Park. So the big community parks get a lot of use, as we would think. And then in the middle of the pack, there are other parks. These are the other parks. The ones in red are not city owned, but they did provide us that feedback. So West Haven Circle Park, Fugelberg, Community Park, Winnebago County is the red one here. And then Stevens, Tech Miller, Jones Park from town of Algoma, Lakeshore, Rouge, Abbey Park, Congress Avenue, Tot Lot, 44th Parallel, Riverwalk, Asylum Point Park, Stegbauer, and then the Wheel Wash Trail. So a couple trail users primarily showed up there as well. And that's as we would anticipate, the park usage with the large regional parks or community parks here being used the most. After we find out where they're going, we like to ask, what is your satisfaction level with the condition of the parks? This is good. I'll read you what this says. It's very satisfied at 33%, so a third of the respondents are very satisfied, and 53% somewhat satisfied. So in overall, 88% satisfaction rate in the positive. And then there's not a whole lot of just unacceptable responses. That was 2%. So, very negligible. And then somewhat dissatisfied. I think that's folks saying they'd like to see some improvements. And same with the somewhat satisfied, that, pretty much what they want to see is here, but they want to see improvements. So that big orange slice tells us to keep going with what we're doing, to keep adding budget and keep up with the maintenance that we're doing. So very good results there. very good feedback from the community. And then we ask a question specifically about the athletic fields. Do you think there are enough athletic fields for the youth in the community? Over half said yes. Only 15% no, and then a good third said they don't know. They just probably don't use it. So, so that was the youth, and then about the same results for adult athletic field use in the city. About half saying yes, there's enough. 18% saying no, and then about a third saying they don't know. So again, they probably don't utilize those athletic fields much. But generally, half the community feels there's enough athletic field in the city of Oshkosh. And then that was athletics specifically. General uses. General uses in the parks, we had just various most important facilities people could choose from. The top 7 amenities were restrooms, biking trails, river walk development, picnic areas, playground equipment, off-leash dog park, and fishing piers. So, we can see that here on the chart, the highest uses were those top 7. And then additional requests in the comments. So other comments that we received, disc golf, from the top down here, disc golf, splash pad, natural wooded space, trash cans, that came up a lot, multi-use path trails, adult exercise equipment, benches, and beach area. So interesting. And the uses, I think there's quite a bit of variety of use in the parks too. There was quite a bit of response for the court space areas, even though it wasn't something that biking and trails, restrooms, everybody's using that stuff. We did get some good responses here with pickleball and the off-leash dog park area that I mentioned before. Those are always very, very popular. And then with your access to waterfront, obviously the fishing piers and the riverfront walk are very unique to the city of Oshkosh. Not everybody has that, so a lot of your park users are on the water, which is neat to see as well. But yeah, pickleball more so than soccer, tennis, basketball was close, baseball with the user groups. But yeah, that seems to be one of the more outstanding active uses within the parks. And then, here we go. The question 11, how well do you think the following parks, trails, facilities, and programs provided in the city of Oshkosh are currently meeting the needs of the community? So basically, the needs are acceptably met, the highest rate, with the exception of Leach Amphitheater, in which needs acceptably met, tied with needs are well met. So, most of these are, get my pointer out here, fairly evenly distributed, with acceptably met. Only the sledding hill and the restrooms, again, that was one of the big areas of need that people identified. And then unpaved trails, that wooded area comment from before, that kind of ties together. But really, the newer developments too, the Leach Amphitheater, people are very satisfied with. So, that's testament to folks reacting to new development, to properly maintaining facilities, things like that, and kind of identifies where in supporting the CIP and future improvements in these areas here. So it really does correlate. I won't go through each and every one of those, but it really does correlate with what we're showing for improvements within this corp and what has been completed recently. Kind of a neat correlation there. And then on the survey, we go into how well do you think the following parks, trails, park facilities, and programs are currently meeting the needs of the community. So Again, this is based on a weighted average, but the top 10 most important amenities were the Leach Amphitheater, the water park, the Menominee Park Zoo, baseball diamonds, South Park Splash Pad, the soccer fields, boat docks and launches, outdoor tennis courts, playgrounds, and outdoor basketball. So court spaces in general were in that top 10. Excuse me. And then the next question, number 12, select up to 10 of the following parks, trails, park facilities, and programs that are important to you and your family. So again, it's kind of honing in on these uses, the top 10 here. Again, restrooms, that's a common theme. They love their restrooms. Most people do when they're out and want to make a day out of it. So those are very good amenities. Paved trails, the river walk again, Menominee Park Zoo, Leach Amphitheater. Picnic areas, unpaved trails again, parking lots, playgrounds, pavilions, and shelters. So, and then in the comments too, there's the opportunity to comment top requests of amenities that aren't in every park. More pickleball courts, again, natural areas, more dog-friendly spaces, more water features, such as splash pads. So kind of a common theme. We're hearing the same feedback question to question. When people do have the opportunity to comment, they will add these kind of top 4 or 5 items. And then getting into park maintenance, top priorities for park maintenance. So we asked folks, what do you want to see Oshkosh spending their time updating? So restrooms, again, restroom maintenance and updating, it's appreciated. That's what this is showing us. People do enjoy having those newer facilities. They would like trash removal. That's a policy issue, of course, but a common theme in what people are asking for. Trail maintenance and playground maintenance. Again, those are commonly budgeted items in your CIP. They're continuously updated. People appreciate that, is what we're seeing here. Ongoing mowing and trimming, tree care, urban wildlife issues, and then other comments after that. But very specifically, the importance is supporting what a lot of the maintenance is. Maintenance and updating is focusing on in the city, and the community has that same input. And then this is more asking, what do you feel could be improved or expanded upon in the city? So again, just from a maintenance focus to new or expanded or improved within the city. Bike and walking trails, for sure. The river walk, fishing piers, pickleball courts, athletic facilities, boat docks, launches, disc golf, and then tennis facilities, kind of a lower ranking, expanded or improved. Pickleball is almost double that, if not more. And then the other items here at the top, other items including, again, restrooms, more and open longer or year-round. People would like to see expansion of that. More natural wooded native planting areas, playground improvements, maintain what we have, no improvements, just keep going. And then dog park or dog friendly areas. And then also areas, items that should be expanded or improved. So this more specifically is getting the feedback for all items that received more than one mention in the question. So again, restrooms, keep going with the restrooms. You guys got a lot of positive feedback on that, and that has been an area of focus, which is very good feedback. Nature, playgrounds, maintain what you have. Dog activity splash pad, South Park splash pad improvements. et cetera. So these really go through kind of park-specific items as well, which is nice to hear, and supportive of the budget, the ongoing capital improvements budget. And then we ask kind of the walkability, bikeability question. How would you rate the ability to walk and bike in and around the city of Oshkosh? So this is more in general for folks to get to the park, is what we're feeling. The feedback is from bikers feel great at 13%, just over right at 60% feel good, and a quarter of the folks though feel that it's poor conditions for biking in and around the city. Pedestrians have a little bit better picture here. Almost 25% feel there's adequate pedestrian walkway within the city. 63%, 2/3 are good with walking around, and 14% say they could be improved, poor walkability conditions. So, overall, fairly decent, very average responses for multimodal transportation within the city, but there is room for improvement there on the bikes and pedestrian trails. And that's all really addressed when we do see those comments again for Riverwalk expansion, trail expansion. It's all the data is supporting itself very nicely, and the focus of the CIP improvements in the Corp really do follow along nicely with that. So this is kind of getting back to the communications piece, questions 16 and 17. How many times in the last year have you accessed the city's website to learn about information on park services? And then what other information, if any, relating to park services would you like to see on the city's website that aren't already there? So in terms of usage, 1 to 5 times, get my mouse out here, 1 to 5 times in the last year was the overwhelming majority. 0 was next, so over a quarter of respondents, almost 30%, did not go to the city website to learn about parks. And then there's a small contingent of frequent users of 10 times a year to over 10 times a year, here totaling about 15% of the respondents. And then about other park information, what would people like to see? On the website, general park information, including recent photos and descriptions. So the Corp does that. We have a nice inventory section we can pull from that to post new improvements, recent successful projects. They'd like to see restroom locations. Again, very important. Maps of the parks, park reviews. And then other information, rules, if there's any specific rules about bicycle use in the parks, dog rules specifically. Park planning information, although the city really does have a very nice catalog of your plans. I don't know if there's a way to promote that more. All your master plans, your Corp, your comprehensive plans are very accessible on that website, but folks do want to see that. Schedules and amenity upgrades. So this is more the construction schedules, what's happening next year, what's happening now, when our project's going to finish. And then educational information, again, about the natural areas and wildlife, just some signage or educational opportunities. And then we ask about the rentals. Have you reserved or rented park pavilions or shelters? And then if so, what was the rental for? And how would you rate the following? So from left to right, no. Most folks have not done a rental. Those that did, the rental was for a family event, a sports or practice game, so an athletic function, a work function, a wedding. I think Leach has a lot to do with that. A fishing event, a boating event, or other. And then the rentals, people are mostly satisfied at the 30+% range, which is very good to see that. And then yellow again is good, over 50% good, and then under 10% of poor. So that's very good feedback to get on your rental facilities, that they are serving their purpose and really doing a nice job for your community. And then we do ask about the Leach Amphitheater itself. A lot of those business events, the wedding events are taking place there that we saw in the last question. We ask, how many times have you attended an event at the Leach Amphitheater? So the numbering here might be a little set off because it does say 0 to 3 times instead of 1 to 3 times, so there could be quite a few zeros in there. But over that, we've got over 20% that have used it 4 to 6 times, 7 to 9 times, or 10 plus times. So that's quite a bit of use for Leach Amphitheater. And then the type of event at the Leach Amphitheater, the big piece of the pie here, 42% was Waterfest. Parks Department event here in yellow. A special event, so wedding or I guess that would be under the private party rental, but a special event, and then not applicable, probably people just visiting, or an other use. So quite a bit of the use here or the attendance is for Waterfest or a Parks and Rec department event, which is really nice to see, that the city sponsored events are very well attended. And then any other comments or suggestions? Again, common themes throughout here. Wanted to see more trash pickup, etc. And then what's nice to see is some of the general thoughts is just compliments to Parks Department and staff. So that's really nice to see. The second most commented item was general compliments to Parks and Recreation staff. So very nice to see. Biking, safety concerns being addressed, requests to finish the Riverwalk, additional disc golf, more trails, more restrooms, more native plantings, South Park splash pad, repair request, and then more benches around. So some good general, it's a lot to catalog when we get into those kind of general comments, but nice to see these top couple items here. So that is our feedback. In terms of what's next and where we are with the court process, historically we had our kickoff meeting, our park sites visits, our online community input survey started, and then we had our advisory parks board presentation in February. We've went to pick up park staff input. We were here March 25th. Well, we were virtually here, but you were all here in the lunchroom. Talked to the park staff to get other ideas, talk to them about park functionality, park maintenance issues. We got a lot of good feedback from that as well to consider. We had, along with this process, we're master planning Pickard Park and had a community listening session for Quarry Park to help guide those two park plans and get those completed prior to the Corp or in concert with the Corp. May 1st, we submitted our full draft to Ray. We got that over for review. And we're here tonight to present our needs assessment and begin to look at draft changes to that draft review. Our next steps are city reviews. After we get the return draft 1 with markups, we will make changes. We'll get a draft 2 updated and submitted. And then one more round of city reviews and return draft 2 with final changes. After that final draft is submitted, so we're going to have 2 rounds of edits. We just got you the first draft, 2 rounds of edits, final draft submitted, and then presentation to the city for approval and adoption. And that's the final step in the process there. So that's really where we're at. We're kind of closing in on a complete document, a couple rounds of edit, and then we'll be looking to get motions to move this forward for final adoption and city approval. Oh, that is nice, Rebecca. Thank you. Rebecca did some nice photography outside our office there, so the azaleas. Yeah. So any questions at this point? Anything pop off the page with that user or community input? I thought it really went nice with the improvements that have been done to show support for that, on the right track, and I think it really supports the improvements that are planned for the future to keep moving in that direction. So it was very supportive feedback from the general responses. Any other questions, comments?
If the board doesn't, I just made note of a few things as you were going through, and I shared this with our entire staff, and we've already had some conversations on things that we're looking to do a little differently and a little better. But first one, what struck us was how people obtain information about park events. We're already discussing some ideas about maybe having quarterly newsletters, getting email blasts a little bit, getting those set up in our software system, different ways to market. Right now, you can see that social media was the big one, but I think there's other avenues that we could do to get that word out a little bit more. I think the other thing, it's not a surprise, I think we've seen this in the last 2 updates we did, was quite a response for maintaining what we have before we continue to add more. I think people see that.
Right.
We're stretched now, and obviously we need to continue to grow as the community grows, but we need to make sure we do that in a smart manner, and
Right.
make sure that we take a look at our staff as well.
Right.
Restrooms, I think you made note of that. I think for the last 10 to 12 years, I think the council and the board have been behind updating restrooms very successfully. There are a couple, I think, that jump out at me. I think the Rainbow Memorial Park restrooms, as well as Abe Rochland, right, Chad, I think? Are they-
Reeds and Rainbow, Rainbow and Reeds are the 2 big ones.
But is Rochland done?
That's all been done.
Has it? Okay. So, just so that the public knows, the Rainbow Memorial Park, we do have a master plan for that on the city website, and you'll see in the CIP, there's projects out there, but what we're trying to do is time those at the same time that the Oshkosh Avenue, Sawyer Ave intersection improvement is. The reason for that is the roadway configuration is going to change. Sawyer most likely will go straight into Rainbow Memorial Park. We'll gain a little more park space, I believe, just west of the Oshkosh Avenue Bridge. And so before we start putting a lot of money into the restroom facility there, we're waiting to see a little bit how much further down the road that intersection work is going to be, because it's going to affect that whole area. So
Sure.
we just ask for patience. We know they're not in good condition, but we just don't feel it's right to be putting some money down into those right now. REITs, the ball fields you'll see in here, and I'll talk about that when we get into the CIP. Not surprisingly, I think trails and the Riverwalk continue to be things that people want to see, that connectivity, that pedestrian-friendly type thing. And then the other thing is, I don't think it's a surprise, is dog-friendly. We did, since this last Corp update, we did allow dogs to be back in the parks on hard surface trails, leashed on 6-foot leashes and so forth. I think people are requesting more to have potentially off-leash dog parks, which Chad's had firsthand experience operating some of those. You're really looking at a larger tract of property. If you don't, you're going to have, it's probably going to be shut down more than it's active, because it gets beat up so much if it's in a confined area. Or if it's in a confined area in a smaller one, we'd have to look at the different surfacing and some type of drainage underneath to help with that. So there's maintenance involved with those, but I think that's something we might have to start taking a look at. And as John mentioned, we did meet with the Quarry Park Neighborhood Association. They're looking for some ideas on what might be allowed at Quarry Park, being an old landfill and so forth. You'll see in our corp that we are going to remove the potential for a dog park out there, just from what we're hearing, that may or may not be allowed as far as installing posts or fence posts driving into the land out there. So we don't have a spot right now picked out for any type of dog park or off-leash park. So we might have to start taking a look at some smaller urban dog parks with some of those things in mind. So those were the ones that jumped out at me, and I don't know if anybody else has any comments. So I think, John touched on the schedule. We'll get back the red line version of the draft one. I think in the meantime, we'll start looking at each individual park. I know you and Rebecca have started to do that based on our facility tours, putting things in there that we need to continue to look at getting into our CIPs.
Right.
So I will continue to work on that, and I think that'll be the next step that we come back to the board with saying, based on the needs assessment, based on our inventory and what we've seen,
Yep.
here are some of the things that we're looking at for each park.
Yeah, in the recommendation section. That'd be a great touch point here with Advisory Parks Board. Check in on that. And then, once we review that, we should be at our second round of draft review, and then closing in on that final document. So, yeah, I think that's a good next step too, to come back and present one more time. Mhm.
And this really ties into the next item on the agenda, the CIP. As many of you know that have been on the board for a couple of years, what we try to do is focus on the next 2 years. The 3 years after that really could change drastically based on what we adopt in the corp. Some things may shift around, some of those priorities. But, that's why when you start looking out 3, 4, and 5 years, there might be projects that we're gonna be pulling out of this update that will get slotted into there, but it'll be
Yep.
going into next year most likely.
Yep. Yep. Get that roadmap for the future.
Yep.
So,
If there's nothing else for John and Rebecca,
all right. Would you like this?
you can just put it by the computer, I think. Or bring it here, y'all take it.
Thank you. Yep.
Thank you.
Thanks, John.
All right, yeah, moving right into the CIP discussion.
All right, I did hand out in front of you what we did last year at this time. It says prioritized by Parks Department staff, but last year when we brought it to the Parks Board, there were no changes recommended going to the council. So, thank you. So I wanted to just let the board know which projects that we recommended for the 2024 CIP were actually funded by the council. So going down the list, Menominee Park parking lot and Reeds Fields design, Menominee Park road reconstruction. This was going to be the Seaward Trail section that goes along the west side of the zoo. Obviously, that project's on hold until we get further through the Pratt Trail and get that road reopened. Lakeshore Park development, we had requested $300,000. The council did allocate we requested 5. They allocated 300. The 44th parallel play equipment was included. We actually just received the designs for those, and we're starting to go through the process of selection. Projects that were not included this year: 44th parallel tennis court, and then we intend to add pickleball, Stevens Park play equipment replacement, Stevens Park tennis and basketball court recoating. So those projects were not included. But then we did have the Menominee Park Zoo improvements and Park Trail improvements. The Park Trail improvements, we actually did start requesting $50,000. I believe that's every other year, Chad, correct? So every other year, we're requesting that just to make sure we're upkeeping on our existing trails. So as you can see, there's 3 projects, I believe, as we start getting into what was in your packet for the 2025 CIP. Those projects, we did move ahead and
Ray, you mentioned the Quarry Park Neighborhood Association. What about the Stevens Park Neighborhood Association helping some of that equipment? Because they're really the ones that are gonna benefit the most. I don't believe rec department or softball or anybody uses Stevens Park softball fields, do they?
We do it for youth programs. We do it for
Programs?
for the YMCA or the other youth groups in the community do use it as well.
I mean, I don't know what other projects they may be looking at through that neighborhood revitalization program, but, maybe they could offset a little bit of this so that a couple more of these can get done.
On your question, Steve, on the neighborhood associations applying for some funding, yeah, we work closely with all the neighborhood associations, and what we do is actually have them refer to our corp and our park plans, saying here are some projects that are included, and if you can help try to fund some of those.
Okay.
But yes, we do. And I think that's the idea on some of these, like Stevens Park play equipment. It's a possibility they could apply for some grant funding through the Healthy Neighborhoods Initiative to help with that project. All right, so what I'll do is jump into the 2025. And again, as we're going through these, we can try to focus on 25 and 26. Those are the two primary years that the city manager and the finance department and council really try to focus on, try to look into the next 2 years, but obviously the couple of years after that, we'll go through those as well. So again, the Stevens Park play equipment replacement, because we did not get it funded in 24, we're suggesting that be a high priority. You can see in parentheses that playground equipment was installed in 2004, so we are over 20 years that has been in. We typically try to, if possible, get new playground equipment in every 15 to 20 years. We see the safety guidelines change, availability of parts change. We're not being able to get replacement parts. So get that one. The Stevens Park tennis and basketball court recoding, there's some work that we should have done out there. 44th parallel tennis court recoding, and what we would intend to do is add pickleball courts out there, similar to what we did at Tech Miller and West Haven Circle Parks the last couple times we did tennis court renovations.
Hey Ray,
Yes.
how come number 2 and number 3 went up? The cost went up significantly from the 2024. Like the Stevens Park tennis and basketball went up by $55,000.
Yep, and that's based on projects that the consultant had been getting bid out. Basically, we asked our consultant that we work with what the going rate has been. We put a little bit additional in there because we need to hire him as well for consulting on the projects. So a lot of it comes down to what the most recent projects were that he's worked on, but also putting a little bit of contingency in there, plus his contract amount that we'd be paying. You're going to see a couple new ones in here. Number 4, Leach Amphitheater, the LED sign. That is the original LED sign at the Leach. We've had a number of repairs the last couple of years. We've had to replace some of the actual panels in the LED sign itself. There's like 1 foot by 1 foot panels. I believe we have one that's malfunctioning right now. So that's a new project that we would recommend that we take care of getting replaced. And then we're starting to look at South Park, the marquee signs that we have out there. If you know what they are, they basically have our staff going out and putting up new messages. When we get into the summer months, it's almost weekly when our staff is going out, putting a new message up, taking the other ones down. We really feel having an LED sign at South Park and Menominee Park would be great ways for us to market not only our other department, but others, events in the city. So we're requesting that we have that. South Park has the existing 2-sided LED or marquee sign where, again, it requires staff to go out. What we are able to do with all of these new LED signs is it's cloud-based, so we can do that right from our desk. So it's less staff time going out changing the marquee signs, and very user-friendly on the software. The next one is to get some Riverwalk light bollard replacements. In talking with Scooter from our electric division, we are low on inventory, so any lights that are burnt out on the Riverwalk or any inventory, we need to start replacing. We had talked about the park trail improvements. You'll see that number in here. I believe it was every other year. Or it might be we can see as we go through. Again, what we use this for is repairs to all the park trails we have out there, whether it's Rouge Park, South Park, Stevens Park, but basically it's an allotment for us to do some trail maintenance. The next project is one that I've had some recent discussions with the neighborhood association out by Rouge Park. Part of the master plan for Rouge Park included some potential solar lighting on the trail that basically between Traeger School and Sawyer Creek. So it might be an opportunity for us to get some solar lighting out there. And then on the Riverside Cemetery, you'll see the road repaving request in here every other year for $25,000, and we've done that for a number of years. I think Travis, you guys just worked on some road repaving last week, so.
Yep, and they're still working on it a little bit this week.
So it definitely helps. If you haven't been out in Riverside Cemetery, the roadways really still need some work out there.
Park Trails is annual.
Okay. So the park trails, we are putting that in there annually for $50,000, so. Any questions on any of these other than Becky, your question you had, is anything else? Again, what, this kind of does, once we had 3 or 4 projects from 2024 that weren't funded, that we moved to 25, obviously we need to look at shifting a few things potentially from 25 then. 2026. All right. So we did not request funding in 2025 for Lakeshore Park. We have not utilized all the funds that we had budgeted for this year for Lakeshore Park. So we're going to sit back, take a look at some of the priorities in the master plan for Lakeshore Park and start coming back with ideas on how we're going to spend the funds from this year. We're still getting our feet on the ground with the whole Four Seasons building opening up and being rented out. So there's still some work and some contract items that we still have to work through there. So at this point, we did not request it in 25, but in 2026, you can see we are going to request again some dollars for the Lakeshore Park development. And what we are able to use that for is either to pay for some of the developments that are in the master plan at Lakeshore Park. The other thing we can do is utilize that for some grant funding. We did apply for some grant funding through the DNR for the trail and parking lot on the west side that was constructed last year. So this is really for us to hopefully leverage some grant funding with some of the project as well. Rainbow, you're going to see a number of playgrounds in here, and unfortunately it's right around that 20-year mark where the city put new playgrounds in. So Rainbow Memorial Park was installed in 2004. Aber-Ashland Play Equipment, and the rest of these were 2006. West Algoma Park, Red Arrow Park. So those are really the ones that, again, we need to focus on. A new project that we did put in here, and this is really based on some of the feedback we're getting in the department, but also through the needs assessment, is the South Park Splash Pad. I think everybody knows how heavily utilized that is. It's a community park, very tired. I know Chad is struggling to get some replacement parts for that right now, and I think that that would do us well to redo the splash pad in South Park and get something new there. We are putting a placeholder in here for some Red Arrow Skate Park renovations. Again, that's a facility that we really haven't done a lot of renovations and repairs on the concrete. So I think we're looking to get a consultant in here to take a look at it with us and tell us what we need to do on some of the repairs for that. Because again, it's a little different than just putting in a playground structure. It's actual concrete and the metal grind bars and so forth. Next item, what we're recommending is, because we don't feel we're going to receive the large amount of money that it's going to take to redo the REITs complex and the boat launch parking lot, we're starting to break out pieces and really try to phase it in. If you recall, the entire REITs project with the ball fields, parking lot, I think we were anywhere between $4 and $5 million. And I really don't think that we're going to see those dollars coming in. So if you recall, in this year's CIP, based on what I showed you from 24's request, we do have $500,000 this year. And when we were here last year, I did let you know that that money would be used for the design work if we're going to redo the entire complex and the parking lot. But I did caution that I would be coming back at this time of the year and letting you know if I had a feeling we were going to get the large amount or not. What we're going to probably recommend is that we use that $500,000 to redo one of the diamonds at Reeds, get one of the diamonds completely done, new lighting, new fencing, possibly look at some sports turf at the facility. So as we go through the CIP process with the board as well as with the city manager and the council, that's kind of what we're feeling that the 500 from this year might be utilized for. And then the next thing, as we talked about, restrooms, concession stand for REITs. We're putting an allotment in 2026 to address that. And then further down the road, we've got some additional requests for the parking lot and the other ball field and a few things. So I think hopefully if we can start getting it phased in, we'll get some improvements over there. And you can see the park trail annual allotment. We are looking at replacement of Stevens Park lighting. We have tried to do some replacement of park lights probably for the last 10 years or so, on and off. We have a lot of old poles and fixtures in the parks. And Stevens Park, again, Steve, that might be one that the neighbor association can work with us on as well. Menominee Park Zoo improvements, that's an every other year request for $100,000. And what we are able to use that money for is a lot of the upkeep that we need to do on the trails, the fencing, the other exhibits that we need to do some work on. But it also shows for us when we have a fundraiser going on for a new exhibit, we can let them know the city is putting money in towards, it might not be for the exhibit, but it's for the zoo on an semi-annual basis. And then we're looking at starting some repairs to Menominee Park and Fugelberg boat launches. I think there's a number of concrete issues, cracking, some other things that, again, we're looking to have a consultant come in and take a look at those with us, but to start doing some repairs on some of those boat launches. It's a lot of information, but any questions on any of those?
On Lakeshore Park, that 300, just roughly what percentage does that get us to on the master plan for doing that? I know it's pretty extensive, it's gotta be.
Without having it here, I could pull it up. I want to say the entire plan was somewhere between $15 and $20 million.
Yeah, so this is just, we're like less than
that-
25% probably.
Yeah, and as you know, with all the park plans that we have, that's really a 20 to 25 year. We are trying to make sure we stay up on doing something at Lakeshore because it is one of our newer community parks on the west side. So I can have that for you next time.
I knew it's gonna.
It's a big number.
It's a big plan, so I just wanted to make sure this is just, we're quite a few years of projects here before we ever get that.
Yeah, and just looking at this list, we got to continue to do things at all the other parks. When you're talking a playground replacement of $275,000, and we're looking at 4 or 5 of them in a year. I know we aren't going to get those all funded, so those will eventually get pushed back a little bit too. And whether that's a $15 million number that I estimated for Lakeshore, that was pre-COVID. We all saw what happened with the bids for the Four Seasons building, so that master plan is probably double.
Maybe to Tim's part is to maybe take that 300,000. Are we looking at putting fishing piers out with that 300,000? Are we putting the kayak launch out for that 300,000? What is the park improvement for Lakeshore of that 300,000? Or is it another consulting?
No, that would be for
Because the master
improvements.
plan was done when I was on council already and approved, so.
And we've been picking off portions of the master plan. We
Yeah,
did
so
the
I
parking
guess
lot.
to help the Parks Board a little more maybe is what is the 300,000 being spent on?
And we haven't gotten to that point
Yeah,
yet.
well, I mean,
but
when you
no,
get there though, I think it would help.
I think what we plan to do is once we get through the corp, again, hearing what the needs assessment is, we're gonna go back to the Lakeshore plan and take a look at that. Walking trails obviously is a big one, so doing more walking trails. Looking at, like Steve said, the boat launch.
But
the
I'm just saying,
kayaking.
Council Two is gonna say, well, what are you doing with this $300,000?
They've
Will it
actually-
be broke down to them more than it'd be to here?
No, because what we've been able to do is use it for our match for grant funding. And
Okay.
up until now, it was the Four Seasons, the parking lot, and the trail connection.
Okay.
But internally, Chad and I just talked about this. We really got to step back and take a look at that
Yeah.
master plan and start picking which project is going to be next. So I hear you.
Mhm. good piece of it that's
Yep.
affordable
Yeah.
for that amount of money.
Yeah,
The other
that's what I was thinking,
part,
you know.
yeah.
Yep, so we can do that.
Are the parks in order for the playground equipment on what is most needed?
I think we did, I'll give you a little, Rainbow being the oldest one was top of the list for us.
Yeah.
And looking at the Rainbow Memorial Park Master Plan, the playground site is not gonna be affected based on what we're planning out there. So we really wanted to keep that one higher. I would say between Abe Roshland and Abby, they're probably almost tied there.
Okay.
But because Abe Roshland has a rentable shelter, I think that one maybe gets a little more use, so that one ranked a little higher.
Okay.
Red Arrow, as you see, is lower down the list. We really need to take a look at whether or not we're gonna replace the equipment there at all based on, the former landfill, just from what we know, once we start exposing things out there. So we bumped that one down lower because that one may or may not stay in the plan, so.
Okay. Yeah, like you said, something's going to get bumped, so.
Yes.
The fencing and the lighting at Reeds, I'm out there every week. What's wrong with those fencing and the lighting?
The lighting, we can no longer get replacement parts for. There's a number of lights that are out. What we're trying to do is, if we can get some lights in, Scooter, our electrician, we're trying to reuse some lights from any diamonds that we do have that are still working.
Okay.
The fence has been in pretty poor shape. I know that around the dugouts, we've done a lot of repairs, the backstops. It's pretty tired. Look closer, you take a look at the players' benches and the dugout areas. There's concrete pushing up a lot of the fence bases. I think we did some work internally on some of those, Chad, to get
Yeah,
back down.
I think another big spectrum is to look at, the community went through a ADA compliance program the past couple of years too, and trying to implement some of those things throughout the course of the program is a big part for us in the long run. We do have some areas that we're going to be addressing this year to get caught up in certain spots, but some of these sites are going to take a lot more. And Reeds is actually one of those. It's not a Band-Aid situation anymore. We've got to look at other items from that, from the infrastructure all the way through the superstructure items for the age and the quality of it.
Any other questions? All right, so we'll get into 27, 28, and 29, just kind of give you an idea. Looking at 2027, Stegbower Park restroom shelter construction. That has been in our plan for a number of years. We are getting a number of complaints from the user groups over there as well as the neighborhood association looking to have some type of shelter and/or restroom facility. So we really feel that's something that we need to keep close to the top of the list. The 44th parallel ball field reconstruction, again, it's been in our plan for a number of years. Roosh Park Bridge, this is a new project. It's part of the Roosh Park plan. It'd be a bridge on the further west side of the park, going over the creek to get over into Casey's Meadows. Casey's Meadows really doesn't have a neighborhood park near them, and this would give them access at least over into Roosh Park and get over to the Carl Traeger School area. Again, that's been part of the Roosh Park master plan for years. Parkside A development, this is our parkland that was dedicated down near Ripon, Oregon. We do know that they're putting additional units out there for housing. We have started to get some questions and concerns about not having the park space out there developed, so that's something we have to start taking a look at a little closer. Menominee Park tennis and pickleball court lights. Red Arrow Park lighting. Again, this is something we are going to have to really take a look at over the next couple of years to see what we can and can't do at Red Arrow. The park trail improvement dollars, cemetery repaving dollars. And then you'll see we have the Menominee Park Beach House project in here for 2027. That's going to be a project that we need to do some additional review of based on what we know, obviously with what we found at Pratt Trail. We do know that whole area near the beach house is also a culturally sensitive area. We expect that we will run into some of those same concerns once we start excavating there. So that dollar amount may or may not go higher based on the design. So we do actually have a meeting scheduled here in the near future with the archaeologists and with T.R. Carrolls, who's been working on the project for us for about the last year and a half, just to get a feel for what we might need to do there in order to have another beach house. And with that higher price tag, we are putting in, that would be a public-private partnership. We'd have to have some major fundraising going on for that project. So again, that's why it's kind of out there, where there's a lot of work to do, but also there most likely is going to be some fundraising efforts for that. The replacement of the amusement train engine is something that we've had in here for years, and we'll continually just leave it in there for now. Anything on those currently? Looking into 2028 right now, the West Haven Circle Park splash pad. Again, we've had that in here for a couple of years, that we should probably start taking a close look at that. We do have some Lakeshore Park development dollars in here, park trails, Menominee Park Zoo. Then we have some Menominee Park lighting replacement. Again, this is to start phasing in some newer lights throughout Menominee Park itself. The next one is potential design for any major project that might go on at REITs, which I believe I pushed back to 29. And then same thing for Rainbow Memorial Park. We're just putting some design dollars in here, again, depending on when that whole intersection work takes place. That may move back, it may move up, but it all depends on a lot of that as well. So a lot of fluidity to those projects. And then getting into 2029, we still have a fairly large number in there for the parking lot and the final renovations at REITs. Rainbow Memorial Park improvements, we basically have a placeholder. That number's based on numbers from the park plan out there. Lakeshore Park development. One that we figured we better get on the radar is the dredging of Miller's Bay. This is a project that the city's going to have to decide whether or not they're going to be doing this or not. As many of you know, with the amount of sediment that's gone in by the boat launch, the mooring plugs, even the channel going out to the lake, it's pretty shallow in there at times, and being so shallow, that helps promote a lot of that weed growth. But this $5 million is on the low side. We've got some numbers based on where the material might have to be hauled to. I think that $5 million is barely scratching the surface of what the project would be. So we did want to get it out there, because obviously, we do hear concerns about that, and it's something we're going to have to start seriously taking a look at.
There'd probably be DNR grant dollars available, probably.
Travis and I actually met with a DNR about a year and a half ago, and there wasn't very promising as far as grant availability. If it was a smaller dollar amount.
Okay.
So that's part of the dilemma. And a couple other projects. 44th Parallel Park, there's an open shelter that's currently out there that needs repairs. Chad and I have talked about this with the new playground equipment. We'd like to get that shelter closer to the roadway and closer to the play equipment. Looking at some basketball court resurfacing at both Fugelberg and Tech Miller in the future. Just some general park lighting replacement. As we get closer, we'll figure out which park. And we've got the cemetery roads repaving, park trails. And then another project that has been out there is the Fugelberg boat launch, adding that second launch, and then basically removing the existing break wall and putting a break wall further out so that there's larger boats that could launch from there. That second launch was really planned when it was reconstructed, that whole area. It just was never put in. But again, it's a dollar amount based on the break wall work that would need to take place as well. So some large dollar tickets out there, and as you guys know and see, as things continue to push back, those projects start to really pile up. So. Open to any questions for any one of us.
I guess on these big ticketed items, would it make any sense to say, okay, let's not put 10 items out there, let's just put 1 or 2, because these are the ones that we really need, in a sense. I know there's some kind of maintenance type ones, which is, like you've been put into development for Lakeshore Park and some of these other, park lighting replacements, but if there's really, you don't think that the city and the council has the stomach to do these big dollar projects, then maybe instead of 15 million, you go for just 5 million to get it done 1 year. I don't know if that makes any sense or not.
It does. I guess my answer to that is we've had the Reeds Complex and the Rainbow improvements in this document for probably 10 to 12 years.
Right?
And
Yeah, I've seen
based
them
on,
before.
based on, and I get it, we all get it, there's
Yep.
limited funding, there's only so much that can be done, so projects pile up. And I hear
Right.
you, Steve, but, we really felt we needed to start doing something out at Reeds
Yep.
and phasing in some of these things versus not getting anything for them.
Right.
So, yeah, you're right, it's just availability of funding. And you being on council, you know how difficult it can be when you're
Well, I'm just thinking,
spreading out.
I'm just thinking as we move along, some of these, as the survey says, get used more than others. Yes, you don't want to keep neglecting the smaller parks and things, but, if Miller's Bay can't be used for boating, what good is it? Boaters can't get out of Miller's Bay to get into Lake Winnebago. What good is it? If we don't, get the seawall replaced at Fugelberg boat launch, boaters can't get out on that launch. So I guess, in a sense, are there some that are to the point that we really have to try to hit a home run on and get it done? And then maybe there's a year where we don't have those big $2, $3, $4, $5 million projects, and we can get more of the smaller projects done. I'm just thinking out loud, because there is only so much money to go around.
Yep, but even a $4 or $5 million project right now is getting difficult
Right.
to get funded, so.
Right.
That's why.
And so if sometimes if you throw more projects out there, you'll get actually more of them done, but you'll get the smaller ones done and not the bigger ones, and then you just get putting push back.
Yeah, and this doesn't, if you take a look through all the various individual park master plans we have out there, Ames Point going out, that's got a big price tag to it that we know needs some work, and if whoever wanted to develop something out there, so, this isn't even touching on a number of those items. So,
Right, it's, everything I see here is falling in line with the majority of it's taking care of what we got, as people
Yeah.
said, and taking care of those things that are important to everybody, so, I don't see anything in here that falls out of that. A few are new parks, but we've got that land dedicated, and there was also funds put forth with that because of the developments and things, so, that needs to be done too. Oh, it's a lot, but then again, it's not,
I just remember one year, fire chief was begging for 2 big fire trucks. Budget one year and one the second year.
Yeah.
So you could get both of them in 2 years.
any other questions or comments? Again, I appreciate all this, and it's never fun and easy for us to sit down and try to put these together, because it piles up, real quickly. When you take a look at, even in 2026, 12 projects or whatever we had in there, if we get 4 or 5 of those potentially, depending on the dollar values. And that's, a lot of that is playground equipment, so.
and it doesn't get less expensive.
Correct.
Push it back.
We do ask if there's anything in those first 2 years, if you want to shift things around, because basically we prioritize this, and if you see something, again, I'd focus on the next 2 years versus past that, just because things are going to change so drastically, but Because what we do from here is, whatever this board moves forward to the council, when we start meeting with the council for our budget and our capital improvement program, we do give them a copy of this and let them know that it was talked about and given the priorities that we did. Because if not, if I could get a motion in a second. It's a recommendation. Again, it's not something the council, they know they won't fund them all, but if they seriously take a look at it and appreciate the input that the board does give, so.
I make a motion to approve the plan as
Second.
presented. Or recommend the plan as presented.
Okay. Franz?
I second.
Franz?
Aye.
Davis?
Aye.
Metz?
Aye.
Herman?
Aye.
Motion carried.
All right.
All right.
Staff reports. I hope this is more fun.
Let's try. Update on Rouge Park Trail. So over at Rouge Park, there was a project that was approved that we started last fall. It was a trail to connect basically the Rouge Park section behind Carl Traeger School through it's a lot of wetlands, a lot of prairie area, but a trail going through there along with some bridge and boardwalk to get to the association, the condo association that's constructed over there. That project is complete, except for a few of the restoration and punch list items. The company should be in there. My understanding is later this week into next week to do some restoration along a small asphalt area that they did, as well as along the entire trail. If you haven't been out there, I would suggest you take a walk out. It's really turned out to be a nice project for the neighborhood and for everybody. It takes you through Sawyer Creek area with some little tributaries that go through there, and it's a piece of property that really wasn't utilized and accessed before the trail was in there. So there's sections of crushed gravel trail along with boardwalk through the wetland areas, and then as it connects up to the subdivision on the far west side, just a small section was asphalt paved up to a culvert. So it's really a neat area to take a look at. So that should be all buttoned up hopefully by the end of May. Quick update on Pratt Trail reconstruction. Right now, the archaeological work that needed to take place on the portion of the road that we have removed, basically, I'll call it the east side of Pratt Trail along the water. The archaeological work is done at this point. Right now, it's waiting on the construction firm to come in and do the grading, and then we'll move over to the west side of the road and start tearing up the asphalt on the west side. We will not be going down much further past any of the asphalt. My understanding is right now, because of obviously the contractor had to keep taking on projects over the last couple of months to keep their team working, that they cannot get back in there right now until about mid-June. With their current schedule, they are hoping that we will have Pratt Trail paved by the 4th of July. Paved, but probably not have the lane markings or anything on, but at least there should not be any extremely large holes exposed for when we have the July 4th fireworks. We are still intending to have the fireworks there, and that was the big push, was to make sure that if we can get it paved, and right now their current schedule has that. After July 4th, there would still be some restoration and things to do. They're hoping, again, weather dependent and things stay on track, that by early August, that project could be buttoned up. So it's the best news I have for you on that. So right now, you may not see a lot of work going on because, again, archaeologists have completed what they need, but now it's a matter of getting the schedule freed up for the contractor to get back in there. So.
All right, thank you, Ray.
Yep.
Chad?
Yeah, a couple updates here for you, just because, speaking of CIP, some of these projects that have been ongoing in recent years that are coming up here, or that we're trying to do finishing touches on. Lakeshore Pavilion, If for the public that have been up there around viewing the facility, and it's an immaculate facility, and we're excited for how it's being used, but there's a lot of landscape work going around there that's going to take some time and transition for that facility, especially adjacent to the building, where it may look like appearing all weeds and landscape matting out there, but it's all native plantings that are going inside there. So different little forbs, prairie grasses and stuff that will be in that area that take time, roughly up to about 2-3 years, even further, to get fully established into that. So it's not that it's being neglected, it's just through a phase process of how you manage these types of properties or landscapes going forward. In addition to some of the manicured areas, we're going to start mowing those that are taking place, and plus there are some landscape shrubbery and trees that are going to be replaced that went through some severe winter burn and things of that nature that are under warranty. So you'll also see in the near future that we'll be having some signage put up around the prairie areas to designate those areas so people can understand what is happening from that point. So, but do get up there and take a look at the facility. Now that things are starting to bloom, it definitely gives a whole new perception of the area, and very nice to see from that end. Next will be, Ray mentioned earlier about the 44th Parallel Playground Reconstruction Project, and receiving bids as we speak right now. Hopefully the things will get underway here in the near future, but I would probably see more to mid-late summer based on when ordering equipment gets in to do there. So probably more of an August, September type installation for that type of facility to be completed. In proximity out there, the playground will be in a similar location, maybe a little adjustments, tweaking out there to allow for accessible routing from there, and for some of our stormwater drainage that we have there. But should be a nice facility coming in to arrange for all the age groups needed in the long run. So look forward for more information coming on that.
Great, thank you. Travis?
Yeah, I just have an update on our Arbor Day celebrations. So this year we did, in the morning we had our first Arbor Day at Jefferson Elementary. Mrs. Crabb, the 4th grade teacher, really got her kids involved and had an essay contest and a poster contest on what Arbor Day meant to them, which was pretty neat. WPS was also there. They receive Tree Line USA from the National Arbor Day Foundation every year. So they came, helped us, did a speech on the importance of planting the right tree in the right place. And then they also come through, and some years they'll help donate a tree, but then they also hand out seedlings to all the 4th grade students. So the kids get to go home with the tree to plant in their yard. This year we planted a tulip tree actually on site in the Jefferson campus, so that will be a good one. In the afternoon, then we kind of shifted gears that went over to Aiken Acres or Oshkosh North Conservancy. This year, through the communities class, 3 students there, Garrett Munich, Charlie Clark, and Connor Palmquist, took on the challenge of getting Oshkosh North Tree Campus USA K through 12 status. So part of that is developing a tree campus team that includes staff, students, and some community members. So I believe they have the tree campus team assembled. The second part of that is having an educational plan. So that's conducting activities to connect students with trees. And then third part of that is a hands-on experience, engaging students in projects that bring the school tree spirit out into the community. And then lastly is holding an Arbor Day event, which they then did that afternoon, where they each picked a tree and planted it in Aiken Acres. So it was good. They had most of the communities class come out and participate in it. So it was a good showing. Also, which leads into our spring planting. So we're doing about 150 trees, like I had mentioned previously, around the Stevens Park neighborhood and throughout the city. We're about halfway done. So that's
What trees are we planting?
What
What
varieties?
types?
All sorts. Tulip trees, artichoke cherries, American hornbeams or musclewood, service berries, Kentucky coffee tree, lindens, red buds.
Never
Nice
heard of
mix.
those trees.
Yep.
Hopefully we don't get diseases in them.
Well, and that's kind of the point of why we're using so many. If we do, we're not taking out
So many like
so
we
many of
had.
them
Sure.
again. Yep. So that's all I got.
All right, thank you. Anything else? All right, I make a motion to adjourn.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All right, next meeting is June 10th.